Donald Trump says an entire civilization would die. These are echo in the chambers of dictators of old, such as Hitler and others, who wanted to see an entire demographic of racial, cultural orientation no longer be upon this planet. Donald Trump has now said the quiet part, or the behind doors part, out loud. Put it up for a mass. Quote, a whole civilization will die tonight, according to Trump and his words. Never to be brought back again. I don't want that to happen, but it probably will. However, now that we have complete and total regime change, where different, smarter, and less radicalized minds prevail, maybe something revolutionarily, well, wonderful can happen. His words. Who knows? We will find out tonight. One of the most important moments in the long and complex history of the world. 47 years of extortion, he says, corruption, and death will finally end. God bless the great people of Iran. And it's time he posted this threat over the weekend, Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern time. I want you to keep that up, Sam. Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern time. As if he's promoting The Apprentice. Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern time. On Monday, Trump said at a news conference that if Iran did not end its effective blockade of the Strait, every bridge in the country would be decimated and every power plant would be out of business. In response to these threats, quote, Iran has closed all diplomatic and indirect channels of communication with the United States. And any and all message exchanges have also been suspended, according to their local news. Now, please keep in mind that individuals have been communicating, American diplomats and associated services and intelligence. They have communicated with the counterparts of the Iranian diplomatic corps and their intelligence officials as well. Some of it is called back channel communication. These individuals have had relationships that span decades. They are career diplomat officials. Donald Trump, because of his tweet, he has suspended that, likely intentionally. The Strait of Hormuz has nothing to do with people. It has everything to do with petroleum, has everything to do with oil. So his anger about the Strait of Hormuz has to do with industry, not people, not safety of America, but oil. That's it. Just a few days ago in a press conference, Donald Trump said they don't really need the Strait of Hormuz. America will be just fine. So if we don't need it, who's influencing the decisions from the White House in order to make a proclamation of ending an entire civilization? Iran trolled Trump for these comments with Lego-based rap music, and also, well, truth about him hiding the Epstein files. These things are factual, on the record. Donald Trump also, through the executive action and request of the presidency, has suspended satellite communication from private satellite companies to not show what's actually happening in the region. Why? Iranians also formed human chains along bridges, around power plants across the country. Videos and photographs posted by state and local media showed. Keep that picture up, Sam. When Donald Trump threatened to bomb bridges, these are not the bridges that the Iranian military travel. These are the bridges that are traveled by women, children, men, grandmothers, and grandfathers. These are civilian bridges. When Donald Trump threatened to destroy power plants, understand, the Iranian nation is a modern nation, almost 100 million individuals. 1 million plus of them are Christians, by the way, for the Christian evangelicals who support this war. I want to remind you of that. You cut off the power grid, you cut off life-saving support given to those civilians, once again, who are currently in hospitals, to mothers who are birthing babies, to babies who are on incubators, to babies who have just been born, to mothers who need care, and to people who are being treated for diseases, sickness, illness. They die. They die under that directive. Vance doubled down on Trump's genocidal threats. Here it is.
We're going to get a response from the Iranians by 8 o'clock tonight. I hope they make the right response, because what we really want is we want a world where oil and gas is flowing freely, where people can afford to heat their homes and cool their homes, where people can afford to transport themselves to work. That's not going to happen if the Iranians are engaged in acts of economic terrorism. So they've got to know we've got tools in our toolkit that we so far haven't decided to use. The President of the United States can decide to use them, and he will decide to use them if the Iranians don't change their course of conduct.
It's an illegal war. It was an illegal war from the jump. The Constitution requires that Congress is the only body who can enact articles of war. It has been called war by Trump, by J.D. Vance, by Hegseth. This is war adverse to the U.S. Constitution. Now, J.D. Vance doubles down, says 8 p.m. there should be a response. There's a former general. Remember Mark Hurtley? Remember that guy? He is a retired U.S. general. Here's what he had to say.
I've trained for 40 years as a soldier and as a commander. And when you're an officer in the United States Army, you're loyal to a couple of things. You're primarily loyal to the Constitution. You are also loyal to your superiors if they give, as you said, lawful orders. When they start giving unlawful orders, you find a way to push back on them and to make sure they adjust their approach. I'm sure there's a lot of military commanders right now, a lot of senior officers who are saying to themselves, I can't obey an unlawful order. I can't do things that I know are absolutely wrong. But they also feel like they have to provide support for their soldiers who don't just get to quit. They have to stay in the military and potentially see an uprising in all of these things.
They do not want to die for Trump. They don't want to die for the war criminal, Netanyahu. They don't want to die for big oil companies. They don't want to kill for them either. There's no honor. There was never honor in war. What Trump has done, if nothing else, he has exposed a truth that has been prevalent in this country and on this planet since day one as it relates to war. The first casualty of war is the truth. So they ran game every time. Propaganda made you believe it was something honorable to kill people and to blow up infrastructure. When the reality is the only reason why the people are even adverse to that particular nation is because at some point somebody in their past decided to kill people and blow things up. What did it start over? Territory, profiteering, corporation, globalization. Put them up full mass. The Center on Conscious and War Works to defend the rights of the conscientious objectors, has reported that calls from service members interested in learning about becoming a conscientious objector increased by 1,000% over the past few weeks. I want to remind everyone it is permissible for a soldier to disobey an illegal order. As a matter of fact, it's mandated, not supposed to be optional. But because of the socialization of the culture, it becomes a negotiated debate inside of the hearts and minds of those who are in service. This is the ironic reality that we are facing now. The military defines conscientious objection as, quote, a firm, fixed, and sincere objection to participation in war in any form or the bearing of arms by reason of religious training and or belief, end quote. The Department of Defense has codified protections for those who object to serving in the military on spiritual or moral grounds. I want to remind everybody who serves in the military of that fact. Once a service member submits their conscientious objector packet, commanding officers must take steps to accommodate their beliefs. That is still military policy. Prisoner said recent callers have referenced the bombing that took place on the 28th of February. That was the bombing of the girls' elementary school in Iran. They said that was their turning point. Quote, I haven't heard from a single caller who said, I'm scared of dying in a war I don't believe in, said prisoner. All of them are scared of killing people in a war they don't believe in. According to prisoner, one of the biggest peaks in calls to the center was during the George Floyd protest in 2020. Service members expressed concern about being deployed domestically. Service members expressed concern about being deployed domestically. Incidents of mass conscientiousness, and uprising that sweep the nation also bring into it people who are in the military, they're prisoner. Quote, I think there's a lot of presumptions and misconceptions about the kind of level of political development of people who are in the military and the kinds of things that make them want to resist. He's saying that as the world awakens, do not dismiss the fact that those who are serving in the U.S. military aren't part of the world. They are part of the world. As we object, they object. We saw it when soldiers and former soldiers of the Israeli military supported a document signed against Netanyahu, calling him a war criminal, said he was out of control, risking their own lives to do so. That didn't make a lot of news. We reported on it, but they did it. Why? Because they were conscientious objectors to the madman. Put him up. Steve Woolford, a resource counselor at the GI Rights Hotline. That's a nonprofit that provides non-directive counseling on U.S. military regulations and practices to service members, veterans, and the families. Said his phone has been ringing consistently. Quote, we've had a huge increase in conscientious objector calls in the last year, especially when the National Guard started getting sent places domestically. We've had calls about the different actions with Venezuela, where people feel totally confused about what's going on and don't see blowing up speedboats or capturing leaders of countries as part of defense. That only accelerated even more with this current conflict in Iran. Put it up. Prisoner said, quote, I have a lot of regret about learning by going and doing and seeing it for myself and having crisis of conscience while I was already deployed. And after I had done things I wish I wasn't a part of, Prisoner said, right now in the beginning of a new war, I just feel very personally motivated to try and find as many of those people as possible and let them know that they don't have to go and that they have their choices. End quote. If you or a loved one is in the same position, talk to a professional rights counselor with the Center on Conscience and War. Backlash. Let's go to Tucker Carlson.
If you work in the White House or in the U.S. military, now it's time to say no, absolutely not, and say it directly to the president, no. In case you're thinking about using some weapon of mass destruction against the population of Iran, in whose name we liberated Iran, we killed their religious leader for their benefit. Do you remember that? This was last month. Those people who are in direct contact with the president need to say, no, I'll resign. I'll do whatever I can do legally to stop this because this is insane. And if given the order, I'm not carrying it out.
I know that many orders have been refused. It simply has not made the news en masse yet. Many commanders have decided to resign, not talking in detail about their resignation, but it is clear as to their cause and effect, and some have been fired by Hegseth because they refused illegal commands, both administratively and as it relates to war. Alex Jones has also officially turned on Trump.
How do we 25th Amendment his ass?
The problem is to get the 25th Amendment, it's harder than impeachment. You have to get 2/3 of the House and 2/3 of the Senate.
So what do we do?
Tackle Trump and pretend, let him pretend he's president and publicly report that he's going through a health issue and Vance take over. It literally needs to be something like that.
Marjorie Taylor Greene, put it up. Now, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Alex Jones, Tucker Carlson, I want to remind you, they signed, sealed, and delivered Donald Trump to the nation. So while I applaud their current pivot and about face and am thankful for their, let's just call it, rhetoric changing into something that resembles truth, I do not dismiss the fact that they were willing to leverage other individuals when they believed that they would win in that policy scenario. Marjorie Taylor Greene is also calling to invoke the 25th Amendment. 25th Amendment basically allows for a president to be removed under significant circumstances. Not a single bomb has dropped on America. We cannot kill an entire civilization. This is evil and madness. It's been evil and madness, Marjorie. This war is a red line for many, except the woman who told the world that Jesus and Santa Claus are white men. Here it is.
Honestly, Trump could drop a nuke and I'd still vote Republican over those people because
You're
they want
a Fifth Avenue voter.
In some ways, I really am. But honestly, what they want to do is nuke our own country. You know, it's like the open border, what they're doing to children, all that stuff is still they would do it all.
Insanity, isn't it? Proclamation of Christian values. Megyn Kelly, Donald Trump. It's all a game. It's a game to control your mind, but you don't have to be controlled. They took the essence of personal development, awareness of self, connection to something greater than you, and they decided to codify it into a religion in order to control you. I can't talk about this without talking about the way it happened. It happened because of manipulation. Manipulation did not start in politics alone, but politics has always been a part of it. But if you can be manipulated at one level, they imagine you can be manipulated at the next, and then the next. So Trump utilized the manipulation tool of religion, branded himself as Christian evangelical, or at least Christian evangelical-like, spoke at Christian colleges, spoke at churches, and was able to garner the support of the major evangelical televangelist and by proxy others in order to sell you on a fake idea that this man was somehow your champion. Never was, never will be, unfortunately. Sharon, thoughts?
So my thought is we're here. And it happened quicker than I even thought. This years-long nightmare of Trump and his derangement, not ours, we're finally here. He is threatening to basically end civilization. Not basically, that's what he's threatening. You laid it out, Doc. And he has a pathetic, immoral, unethical kid running a department and calling it by the wrong name, who will likely order whatever this deranged daddy tells him to. We are here because there's going to be consequences. And before we went on, one of your great teammates, Sam, and I were talking about this. Look, now is the time to stand up and do something. We're so insulated as Americans, even well-intentioned Americans. We actually believe that it's sad, the war's illegal, but there's perhaps no consequence for us individually as we go, or our society as we go about our daily lives. But there is a consequence.
Yeah.
And there is another world out there. And this madman is dragging us, kicking and screaming, but not enough, Doc, into a dark unknown.
Yeah. And that's sometimes the catalyst for an appreciation for light, is being in that kind of dark corruption, the mass manipulation. Light is truth. Light is information you can utilize for progression. Light is wisdom. Light is honesty. And maybe we started to not appreciate those things inside of leaders or inside of ourselves as much as we should have. But this is an awakening to it.